2017, I worked with the legislature to pass a pilot preschool program so we could see how it works in a state like ours, in our urban and in our rural communities. And in the last year, I've had the opportunity to visit many of those classrooms under the pilot program. I saw Mrs. Van Nice's classroom right here in Helena. I met with teachers who shared the incredible difference that it can make when a student has the opportunity to attend preschool, and it's better to set up to succeed not just in kindergarten, but into third grade, sixth grade, and indeed throughout their lives. I met with kiddos who grow cognitively, socially, and emotionally in a preschool classroom and are able to develop the skills that they'll need throughout their lifetime. In the first year of our pilot program, it was 17 different programs all across our state. 93% of participating preschoolers were ready for kindergarten at the end of the year. Kids who are ready for kindergarten are more likely to read a grade level, graduate from high school, and earn more money as adults. I met with parents who were able to join or stay in the workforce because they had that affordable preschool option available in their community. I heard these stories in some of our most rural communities like Webo and Troy, as well as our most urban communities like Billings. I also heard time and time again about the lack of high quality, affordable preschool options available in rural Montana. I also heard about it in Kalispell and Great Falls and Bozeman. I heard about long wait lists from schools, wishing they could take every student who signed up to enroll, but the capacity simply wasn't there. I heard from parents relieved that their child was fortunate enough to have a preschool opportunity because indeed so many others don't. The report from the first year of our pilot program also found there's a demand in both rural and urban communities across Montana for more high quality, affordable preschool options. And it recommended continued state investment in order to expand access and increase school readiness. It's not just the parents, the teachers, and the kiddos. It also makes sense economically that we make this investment. For every dollar spent on a high-quality preschool programs creates at least $7 in future earnings to the communities and the states that invest. Early interventions, such as preschool, have more impact on any other preventative measure and will result in savings down the road to the state for special education, child protection services, corrections, and safety net programs. For the legislators on the fence, or who for some reason don't see this investment as worth it, I so encourage you to visit a preschool classroom in our pilot program. Don't take it from me. See for yourself all of these incredible benefits, economically and educationally, of making investments in publicly funded, high-quality, voluntary early childhood opportunities. Because beyond our youngest learners, our comprehensive education funding proposal will restore funding for the quality educator loan repayment. Providing this incentive once again will help rural districts recruit great teachers to their communities and indeed keep them there. The bill also includes the statutory inflationary adjustment, increasing funding for schools by $70 million over these next 2 years. Critically, House Bill 225, which is our school funding bill, also finally adds special education to the list of education funding components that will receive an inflationary increase each biennium, or over 2 years. This change is long overdue, and for too long, state funding for special education has lagged behind the need. It's critical that the state supports districts as they serve some of our most vulnerable students, because their success is all of our success. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Representative Schreiner. Representative.
Thank you, Governor Bullock, and thank you for being such a tireless champion, providing opportunity to our earliest learners and Montana families. House Bill 225 represents what an education funding bill should look like in the legislature. From the beginning, Democrats have said that Montana's education funding is complex. It's a jigsaw puzzle, but we have to address every piece of that puzzle to do right by the people of Montana. This bill does just that. As the governor said, it does these four things. It funds school and keeps up with the rising costs of education for our districts. It finally, and I do mean finally, funds education in the inflationary to keep up with the costs of every Montana family that needs a little bit more help. It addresses our teacher shortage and helps rural Montana with $250,000 in support for incentives to get the most talented folks into our rural classrooms. And finally, as the governor said, it provides an A and B funding for voluntary enrollment in preschool. And that one's special to me. As the father of 3 boys, 2 of which are lucky enough to be sitting in public preschool classrooms in Great Falls as we speak, I can speak firsthand as a parent that high-quality early childhood education is a game changer. You see, over the last 2 years, we've seen our boys, both of which, the 2 that are in school, fall on the autism spectrum, go from being nonverbal, not making eye contact, and frankly not even answering to their own name, to a place where last night, Aiden, my 5-year-old, read Night Night Montana to me over FaceTime. Like I said, that's a game changer. As I said, preschool's a game changer for children, families, and ultimately our state's economy. As the governor also pointed out, for every $1 we invest, a high-quality early childhood education brings $7 back to us. I can't imagine a world where we wouldn't take advantage of this. It's time that we invest in Montana. It's time that we invest in Montana's future leaders, and that's what we're going to do today by passing House Bill 225. Now, I'm proud to introduce the next speaker, who is the superintendent for my children and my family, the superintendent of the Great Falls Public Schools, Tammy Lacey.
Thank you, Representative Schreiner. Good morning, and thank you, Governor, for asking me to speak today. I'm going to talk about the portion of House Bill 225 regarding preschool. And I'm going to start with the renowned 17th century philosopher Balthasar Gracian, and he said that to know or listen to those who do know. In other words, either have the facts or listen to those who do. As a superintendent of a district that has a high-quality preschool program that Casey talked about, who has parents calling me and begging me for their students to be able to attend, who is actually contemplating having to significantly reduce the services we do provide, I'm a superintendent who is desperate for the 66th Montana legislature to address the opportunity gap of our youngest citizens via state funding of high-quality preschool programs. Despite the experiences of most of the legislators, and actually probably most of us in the room today, many families across our great state cannot provide opportunities that prepare their children for the rigorous demands of today's elementary and secondary elementary education programs. Many families and agencies that serve them are begging for help in addressing the opportunity gap. The fact is, in 2019, poverty, homelessness, addiction, mental health crises, and other adverse factors are sadly widening the opportunity gap. The time is now to face these realities. Let's face the facts and listen to those who know. Here are some of the facts. Number 1, a substantial share of the youngest residents in Montana face significant challenges during their early years. In 2017, Montana had 73,250 children under the age of 6. Of those children, 50% live below 200% of the poverty guideline. That means 12,200 Montana 4-year-olds live in poverty. Fact number 2. Less than 50% of 4-year-old low-income children have access to early learning programs. Thanks to Governor Bullock's efforts in securing some funding and to those districts who've secured federal preschool grants and the Head Start program, 6,000 4-year-olds are reaping the benefits of early intervention programs. That leaves about 6,200 that aren't. One child left behind is too many, but 6,200 low-income children is intolerable. Let me tell you what that looks like in a real kindergarten class. It was my first day of school, being the superintendent in Great Falls Public Schools, and I went and visited a kindergarten class. I sat down with 4 little children at their little chair next to their table. One little girl picked up the books that the teacher had in the middle of the table and began reading Goodnight Moon. She obviously had had lots of experiences, lots of opportunities with the printed word. The little boy on the other side of me told me that he got his backpack from the rescue mission because his parents couldn't afford them. He offered that. He was so proud of the school supplies that were in his backpack. I asked him to look at a book. He grabbed the book. He wasn't exactly sure where the front of the book was, where the back was. He was looking at it upside down. Obviously, one of his first experiences in looking at a book. That's what an opportunity gap looks like in our kindergarten classrooms. Fact number 3, poverty, along with exposure to violence, abuse, and neglect, and having an incarcerated or mentally ill parent hinder healthy development. Adverse experiences or toxic stress impair learning, memory, and the ability to self-regulate. Based on the results from the National Survey of Children's Health in 2016, 26% of the children in Montana were identified as having 2 or more adverse experiences as children. That's higher than the national average of 22%. Lest we think that the families and the children in Montana are better off situated than other states, we definitely need to look at the facts. The families of these children are often the source of the toxic stress. 26% of children are spending their time surviving. They don't have time to spend time learning their colors or the ABCs. And even if they want to and have the means to, many parents are busy working, which leads me to fact number 4. More than 60% of Montana children under the age of 6 have all of their parents in the workforce. That means these children spend significant amounts of time in daycares, child care facilities, with family members like grandparents or with neighbors. While some are excellent, most do not employ highly qualified educators that are required of our public preschools. One Great Falls parent testified recently to the Joint Appropriations Committee about the marked difference in the quality of programming her youngest child received at the Great Falls Public Schools preschool in comparison to that received by her older 2 children who attended the premier private preschool in Great Falls that she had to take a second job to even be able to afford to send her children to. She testified that the free public preschool was superior in providing the necessary social and pre-academic skills she wants her boys to have to ensure kindergarten and beyond success. Having free preschool allowed her to not have to take the second job and to be able to concentrate on her first job and her family. Speaking of wanting children to succeed, did you know that 7,500 Montanans are raising their grandkids? That's fact number 5. In visiting with a few grandparents that have children in the Great Falls Public Schools preschool, they told me that they are tapped out financially because they have tried to help their own children through addiction and recovery, and that's very expensive. Some of them are tapped out emotionally because they didn't plan to be raising children at this time of their lives. One grandmother told me that the free Great Falls Public School preschool has been a godsend to her and her grandchildren. She now has hope for her grandchildren because the teachers, being highly qualified and highly trained, understand the effects of abuse, neglect, and trauma that addiction brings, and unfortunately they had endured. And they know how to support the social and emotional needs of these kiddos. These same teachers have supported this grandmother as she has tried to navigate the hard but important job of raising her child's children. And fact number 6, there is a growing chance that the children being raised by grandparents and the ever-increasing number of children living in foster care in our communities were exposed to drugs while in the womb, as the number has more than doubled between 2010 and 2016. Drug-affected children are in our schools. They require early and specialized support that our public preschools are prepared to provide. I could go on and on. There are even more facts in a report by the Federal Reserve Bank about early childhood development in Montana. I'd encourage you to Google it. The bottom line is that many families in Montana are suffering, which means that lots and lots of children in Montana are suffering. Public preschools are one of the most important investments we can make to mitigate the suffering. They are the best investment we can make as a state and as a society if we want to truly address the opportunity gaps. These opportunity gaps are real, they are vast, they are harmful, and we will pay for them one way or the other, as research tells us that at-risk 4-year-olds often become at-risk adults. Adults at risk of being unemployed, incarcerated, in need of safety net programs, and other expensive lifelong interventions. The Montana legislature has heard about this year after year. I believe this is the 4th session that I've come to testify about this. It's time that this legislative body faces the facts. It's time to listen to the facts and to accept the facts that this investment actually saves precious state and local money. It's time to stop saying there isn't money to invest in our youngest citizens. It's time to listen to those that know. It is time to show the world that we are a state of people that values childhood by doing the right thing. Please, let's fund public preschools today. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Superintendent, for sharing those facts. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor and Representative Schreiner. The hearing on House Bill 225 is this afternoon. The hearing on the STARS program was now about a week ago, at least the first hearing in Budget Subcommittee. Are there any questions? With that, I hope to see all of you here, and I guess I would also say thank you for members of the education community for being here, as well as our firefighters, doctors, paleontologists, and others, and look forward to a good hearing today. Thanks so much.
It's amazing.